Students, have you ever lost your temper with a teacher? What's your story? There was this guy I knew back in school about 15 years ago now, who completely lost his temper during class and ended up throwing a chair at the teacher. It sounds wild, but the story behind it was way more complicated than just some random outburst. The crazy part is that now, years later, the two of them are actually good friends. It's one of those moments that went from a total disaster to something unexpectedly real. It all started in a history class. The guy, let's just call him Jack, was never one to keep his mouth shut, especially when he thought something was wrong or unfair. This day, they were discussing a topic that somehow got heated. I don't remember exactly what, but Jack was being that awkward, pedantic type. He was digging in on some detail that most of the class had moved on from, and his tone was starting to grate on everyone, including the teacher. You know the type, someone who just can't let it go, no matter how much everyone else wants to move on. The teacher, a guy who was usually calm but had a sarcastic streak, started making some snide remarks under his breath, probably trying to shut Jack down. But Jack didn't get the hint. Instead, the tension built and built. You could feel the air in the room thickening, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Jack got steamier by the minute, his face turning red as he kept arguing, not realizing that the rest of the class was already drained and annoyed. The teacher snapped back, throwing a comment that was sharp and maybe a little meaner than he intended. That was the last straw for Jack. Without thinking, Jack grabbed the nearest chair and hurled it across the room. The chair slammed into the wall with a loud crash, making half the class jump. The room went dead silent. Jack stood up, gathered his stuff, and just walked out of the classroom without saying another word. Everyone was stunned. What happened next could have turned into something terrible, but it didn't. Jack didn't storm off to cause more chaos. He just stood outside the door, breathing hard, letting himself cool down. After a few minutes, the teacher followed him out. No yelling, no threats, just two guys standing there in silence for a moment. Then the teacher broke it with something like, "I think we both need to apologize for what just happened in there." Jack nodded slowly, the anger fading away. He said something back, admitting he lost it, that he probably should have just shut up and let it go. The teacher admitted his snide comments didn't help either. They shook hands and agreed to put the whole thing behind them. That moment changed everything. Instead of turning into a long-term grudge or disciplinary nightmare, the whole ordeal became a strange but meaningful turning point. Jack and the teacher ended up talking a lot more after that. They found some common ground, and over time, built a kind of respect for each other. Years later, Jack told me he and that teacher kept in touch. They actually became friends. It's funny to think about. The guy who once threw a chair in a rage now laughs with the same teacher over beers, joking about how ridiculous the whole thing was. What could have ended with expulsions and bitterness instead turned into a lesson in understanding and forgiveness. That day in the classroom was a mess, but sometimes, messes lead to unexpected things. It wasn't just about a chair being thrown. It was about two people realizing that underneath all the anger and frustration, they were both human, and that made all the difference.